Well, hello, everyone. This is John Rollins. Today is Wednesday, and so that means it's time for our weekly S.T.R.I.V.E sessions. S.T.R.I.V.E, strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain empowered. We're so grateful for the opportunity to be with you on today. I apologize for missing on last week, but last week I was tired. I could try to dress it up and make it sound good, but I was tired and I did not feel that I was positioned to give my very best, and so I made a decision to postpone. And I even appreciate the people who saw that post and shared your thoughts with me. So it does make me feel good to know that there are some people out there who are concerned about what we're doing. It really does mean a lot. Again, strive, strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain in power. And so what we aim to do on today is to share with you some thoughts that I hope will be of some value to you. I normally try to have a topic for each time that we do these. And so our topic today is contentment or comparison, or maybe comparison or contentment. We'll let you decide how you want to receive it. Okay. But what I hope to do is to give you some idea of how comparing ourselves with others or comparing things may actually be drawing us away from what it is that we're actually seeking, and how contentment could bring us to that place where we are fulfilled, that we're satisfied. Remember, we say that these sessions are for those people who are believers, who've accepted Christ as their Lord and Savior. And so we're trying to figure out how can we live our time while we're here on this earth in a way that it brings not only glory to Him, but it brings fulfillment and enjoyment to us. I think Christ said He wanted our joy to be full. I think the apostle said He wanted our joy to be full. So how can we find contentment? And I'm suggesting to you that maybe if we're comparing ourselves to others or comparing things, it may be robbing us of our contentment. So that's where we're going with today. Comparison is actually defined as an act of finding out the differences or similarities between two or more people or things. It's an act of evaluating two or more things by determining the relevance or the comparable characteristics of each of them. Uh, and in doing so, we find that there are some similarities and there are some differences. Okay, now when we compare, we can discover that there are things that are things or areas of our lives that are different from the areas of the lives of others. And just by us having that or going through that process, it could be something that's of benefit to us. But also, we can come to realize that there are some things that may be different, but there are a lot of things that could be similar, that could be the same. Another definition that I found for comparison is when we look at the quality of a thing. Okay. Now, what I found interesting is that the definition doesn't speak to the quality. It just says it's an act or process where we go through and we can look at the features or the benefits of things, determine what's similar, determine what's different. Okay. But it doesn't speak to the quality. And I think that what happens is we start identifying a value to those differences, or a value to those similarities, and then we start looking for what we have or what we don't have, and and it starts to weigh on us sometimes pretty heavily. When you think about your vehicle shopping, what you do is you go and you look at one model or one make of a vehicle versus another. Some people say I only want domestic. Some people say I love imports. Some people say I need a SUV. I need a 4-wheel drive. And so the act of comparing those vehicles, the makes and the models, the years, it will help us to discover that there may be some features that we desire in one make, one model, more so than we desire in others. And if we did not compare them, we may never come to that realization. You may find that there are going to be some similarities between the vehicles. Both of them may have 4 wheels. Both of them may have GPS. Both of them may have Bluetooth, serious capabilities, heated wheels, heated seats. Okay, so there may be a lot of similarities that we will find in those vehicles. Okay, but then it may come to a matter of preference. I want there's one that comes in canary yellow, and I want cobalt blue. And so it's through comparing that we're able to identify what it is that we really like about one versus the other. Uh, so it is through that process that we're able to distinguish what it is about the two vehicles that appeal to me or appeal to another. Now, I personally, I've asked people, or I try to encourage people not to compare. Okay, and it is not because comparing is a bad thing. In fact, hopefully I've shown you that there is some value in making comparisons. But I discourage comparing ourselves to others because when we identify those areas of focus, we place a value, we place a judgment on them, or we assess a value or a lack of value to the qualities that can be taken out of the wrong context. So it's a natural activity. Comparing is a natural activity. You think about when you go shopping for food, we may compare one brand to another brand. When we're shopping for clothes, it would do me little, it would be of little value for me to go looking for clothes and then find the ones that are in the ones who have a much bigger waist size or smaller waist size than what I have. I can go and look for them, but I can't use them. So there's some value in shopping for clothes. We may compare jobs based on my individual skills, my individual makeup. I may want to find a job that allows me to interact with people. I may not like the idea that I have to be alone in a cubicle all the time. So I may have multiple jobs to choose from, but then I start comparing which one is going to make me, I may have to relocate, or I may not like the benefit package in one. So yes, we want to compare those things. When I'm looking to hire people to bring them onto our team, we look at their resumes, we interview them, and then we look at, based on our needs, who is the person who's going to be a best fit for the organization? Who is more likely to help us to fulfill our mission? With online shopping and with the whole advent of e-commerce, we can do look at reviews. We can go and look at the features and the benefits. We can go and do searches on Google or Bing or whatever. Okay, so there's some good that can come out of comparing products. Okay, however, like I said, if we're just dealing with just the item itself, that's one thing. But we start to assess a certain level of value, or we start to judge things. And that's what happens, I think, when we start comparing ourselves to other people. We start comparing our belongings. Well, I don't have the kind of car that my neighbor has, or my best friend just got a new SUV, or the people that I grew up with, they're living in this type of house, or they're making this type of money. And I start comparing myself to others, to other people, and either I say that I'm better than or I'm worse than their situation. And that's dangerous. And then what we do is we start projecting that on our children. Well, my shoes are better than your shoes. My clothes are better than your clothes. We have a better house, a better car than you have. And we start building in them this idea that we judge products, we judge items, we give value to them, and we do that, and then we start distinguishing people. Well, because you are this person, you might not be as good as I am, or you may not have the same qualities that I have, the same opportunities. And when we start doing those comparisons, we're going to always probably find someone who's in a worse situation than we are, but we could probably always find someone who's in a better situation we are. When we find someone who's in a worse situation, it makes us feel good. Okay, but we find someone who's in a worse situation, then we start thinking that we're missing out on something. We start to thinking that we haven't become all that we could, or that we can become, or that if we're given more effort, then our lives will be different. And I think that's dangerous. And I try to discourage people from doing that. It can lead to unhappiness. It can make you feel superior or inferior to another person. Sometimes we use comparisons because it helps us to get a clear picture of who we are, to evaluate our skill set, to evaluate our competencies. And that's okay. But when we start assessing that value to it, we start to judge things, then it starts to show us that maybe I'm not all that I thought that I was, or maybe that I'm missing out, like I said, on something, and that's dangerous. So the thing with comparison, or the thing with the rating or evaluating, is that it tends to identify not only the differences and similarities, but it also evolves to a degree of distinguishing or distinction. And from there, the discussion becomes a matter of assigning a percentage value to the differences. Well, I got a 83 on my test. What did you get? Well, I got an 84. Well, if you got an 83 and I got an 84, then I must be smarter than you. Well, I ran the race in a 10.2. What was your time? You did a 10.5. Well, if you got a 10.2 and I got a 10.5, I must be better than you. And when we start doing that, not only now are we distinguishing, but we're trying to either include or exclude people based on one item, one measure. And that's one of the dangers of comparisons. It becomes dangerous because depending on who we use to determine or comparison, who we're using to assign that value, that worth, a lot of times we don't even know all the details surrounding that person. We don't know all the details surrounding that possession. And if that's all we're using to compare what that person has or what another person doesn't have, we may be grossly overvaluing our worth, or we may be grossly undervaluing our worth. Okay, that's the danger of comparison. Okay, the car that you thought that you wanted so badly, when you get it, it turns out to be a lot different than the one that you already own, but now you're stuck with the payments. That relationship that you saw that you envied, or that person you thought it would be a good replacement for the person that you have now. You go and you get that person, you find out you now are in a living nightmare. Okay, that's the danger of comparing ourselves, comparing things. Okay, so I once heard somebody says if the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, you might need to look at the water bill. Okay, the effort needed for upkeep may be more than you're willing or that you're able to pay. That's the danger of comparison. So what's the solution, John? Okay, the only, and I found this online, and I want to read this to you. It says the only true antidote to comparison is contentment. The only true antidote to comparison is contentment, which begins with a thankful heart, being appreciative of what I have, being appreciative of who I am. No, I may not have the same type of hair. I may not have the same body style. I may not have the same house, car, whatever as someone else. But I appreciate what I have. This comparison trap compels us to turn inward, to focus on ourselves, what we lack, what caused our discontentment. But thankfulness, on the other hand, helps us to look outward. And because of an appreciation of what we have, then we are able to go out now and to help hopefully try to build up someone else. Contentment. When we are thankful, we don't see what we lack. We see the generosity. We see the faithfulness of a good Heavenly Father who has compelled us because of what He's done for us to go out and try to do for others. You may recall Christ said when somebody asked and say, what is it that can help me to be great? He says, if you want to be great, serve. If you want to be the master, learn how to serve. And He demonstrated that when He brought all the disciples in together, right when they were getting ready to eat, and He took the towel, took off his robe, put on the towel, and went and washed the feet of the disciples. He served them. You don't think He was content? And not just being in that state of contentment, but He did this with full knowledge that what He was about to go through, they weren't going to have to endure it. Okay, but He knew what He possessed. He knew what He was all about, and He said, "You call me master, and you call me teacher, and you're right. That's who I am. Look, everything that you say about me is true. But guess what? If your master and your teacher, is willing to serve you, to wash your feet, okay, I believe that you can find the same level of satisfaction, the same level of contentment that I have by you being willing to do it as well." So I encourage you that you can be content. You can be content. You don't have to compare yourself to what somebody else has or what they don't have. Okay? In fact, what they have or don't have, that really has nothing to do with you, especially if you haven't denied them of a possession. Okay? But you can be completely content with what you have, with who you are, what your value, your worth, what you bring to the table. No, you may not have everything that you want, but you have something. I think I've told you all before. One of my statements when somebody says, "John, how you doing?" I said, "Man, it could be a whole lot better. It could be a whole lot worse." So I'm grateful. I'm thankful that it is the way that it is. Okay. Contentment or comparison. Comparison or contentment. I hope you're leaning toward contentment. I really do. Because that whole comparison thing is probably going to end up deflating you, where that contentment thing will fill you with all joy, with all peace. All right. I hope that was okay for you all. Hey, I close the way that I love to close. It's been 2 weeks now. So if you've not had someone to come into your life to affirm you, to remind you of your greatness, to remind you of just how worthy you are, to let you know that if you were not here, the world would not be the same, please give me the privilege of sharing it with you that today, tomorrow, and forever, you are important. And in that, you can be content. All right. Y'all be blessed. We hope to see you next week.